Hello, I'm Alexandra Deutsche, Director of Museum Engagement at the Winterthur Museum, and I'm here today with Kim Collison, our Curator of Exhibitions. And although you can't be here with us today in the galleries, we are here to talk to you about an intriguing group of objects that all relate to the Shakers, which was a 19th century community, religious community, celibate community where men and women were separate, and they had communities really throughout the East Coast. These objects come from various Shaker communities, but what is particularly interesting for the sake of this exhibition is the entrepreneurship that comes out of the women in the Shaker communities, and it really puts a different spin on celibacy in the context of the Shakers, because these women in the communities were not burdened with the domestic obligations that came with having children. They were remarkably productive and incredibly entrepreneurial, and I think these objects really speak to that they had time to pursue deeply these entrepreneurial endeavors.
They do. These objects really do speak to that, Alexandra. There's a number of things in here. We have a series of bottles from Shaker medicines. So the Shaker community was very involved in turning herbs into medicines. And the women were the people who were often working with the dried herbs and producing these medicines, so much so that in later factories, even outside the community, they were brought in to do that work. And what we see is not only the bottles, but some of the labels that were in our collection of the library, as well as this really unique box. This box would have been used to store things, but it's made with some broadsides that were saved from a couple advertisements of the medicines. One in particular, the syrup of sarsaparilla, was probably their best known medicine and maybe most widely distributed. And this is a really unique survival, this box. But the other thing we have in this case is a series of books that women produced. One is a series of recipes for women's disorders or things that affected women in particular. And this woman, Prudence Morrell, collected these as well as a larger book that we have for just general medical recipes. And we also have Mary Wichiter's book, which was a series of daily recipes and things for women, and much of the book is an advertisement and is talking about the virtues of that syrup of sarsaparilla. So the medical business and the herbal medicines is just one thing that the Shaker women were involved in. And we're going to take you into our other gallery and show you another group of objects that show this productivity of women. So here we are looking at the other Shaker case in the exhibition at a series of what look to be very different objects, but all of these objects are also produced, or women had a role in producing them. The chair in particular is interesting because Sister Lillian Barlow, who may have made this chair, she joined Brother William Perkins in running the Mount Lebanon woodworking company. And when he passed, she actually continued to run that woodworking company for 10 years independently. And the chair may have also been woven by Sister Sarah Collins to do the work on the seat. And that idea of weaving and basket making and bonnet making and the braids that you see here is also part of a role that the women played in the community. Not only preparing those materials to be woven, but then weaving them into the objects that we see.
I just think when I look at this group of objects, I have to admit I had my doubts that they would all come together, but when you look at the stories, it's such an amazing story of entrepreneurship. And I think a lot of the objects actually look very modern that come from the Shakers, especially our Shaker rooms. Once the house is open again, they are such modern spaces.